Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Leah Thomas, and I'll be your host today. Thank you for making time to be with us this evening. Before I introduce our speaker, I would like to give viewers a brief on who we are. We are a global team of mentees from the Leadership and Mentoring Program, organized by Prof. Ng Kwan Hong. We organize monthly meetings on leadership and mentoring and are happy to have you with us today. We will be taking questions at the end of the talk. Kindly fill your questions in the comment section on the YouTube video. Now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our speaker for this evening, Dr. David Yoong. Dr. David is a former University of Malaya academic who has a decade's worth of experience in education governance, communication research, pedagogy methods, research writing and supervision, and talent development. He served as a Deputy Dean of Research and Development in the Faculty of Languages and Linguistics at the University of Malaya in Malaysia from 2017 to 2020. He left the University of Malaya to become a coach who mentors postgraduates in thesis writing. Today, he will speak to us on becoming a professional academic, what professionals do to accelerate their progress. Over to you, Dr. Yo.
Sorry about that. I was unmuted. I was unmuted. So, first of all, thank you so much for your kind invitation, and especially to Prof. Ng, I'm not sure whether he's tuning in, because the last correspondence I had with him, he said something like he's got some award, one of his other awards that he's receiving. So anyway, thank you so much, and thank you for the generous, how should I put it, acknowledgement and introduction there. And you guys are so formal. I just feel so terrified. Anyway. So today I'm going to be sharing on a short talk. I should take up about 40 to 45 minutes on becoming a professional academic and what professionals do to accelerate their progress. So even if you're not an academic, this talk should also be of relevance to you, because it concerns talent development and ways to actually bring yourself from where you are to become someone better than what you are today. Okay, a quick introduction about myself. I graduated from La Trobe in Australia back in 2010. And then when I came back to Malaysia, that's me. I received an award from the then Chancellor, the Prince. He was then Prince, is now our Sultan. Not Sultan Azlan Shah, Sultan Nazrin Shah. And also overseeing this ceremony was the then Vice Chancellor, Prof. Garth Jasmine. So I received this certificate and also a nice token of 2,000 ringgit, which basically shows that I finished my PhD thesis in less than 3 years. But actually, in reality, I'm not trying to brag here, but the thing is, I finished in 1.5 years. I submitted for examination, and then after that, I took the time off to do a lot of things like research stuff. I pursued my hobbies like music, photography, as well as skating. And then when I came back, that's me. I was Deputy Dean for a while, for 3 years, from 2017 right up to 2020. And these are some of the students whom I taught, and they also graduated under me. So I've taught about 3,000 students on thesis writing over 10 years. I've also examined master's and PhD thesis, especially in the areas of education, language education, and linguistics. I've also supervised 20 students right up to graduation. And now today, what do? I'm pretty much a coach. I help those who are struggling with their research to fall in love with their thesis, right? And also I try to help them to get to their objectives in terms of graduating on time, enjoying the whole process, and also ticking that bucket list. So in terms of my areas of specialization, this is what I do. If you look at the kinds of research projects I work on, I basically study how people talk. I study how people use language, how they communicate with one another in order to achieve certain personal goals. Like, for example, my latest project was looking at Arul Kanda, our infamous national scandal, right? He was the CEO of that company, 1MDB. So I pretty much study that. If you're interested, do check out my papers. Now, you may be wondering why am I here, right? I'm a linguist, but I'm talking to a group of medical physics, PhD students and academics. And the reason being is because of Prof. One day I was giving a webinar and he was like, hey, let's meet up after the talk. So we did that, and we kind of formed a special relationship where we are just like collaborating on interesting projects. Like right now, I'm working with him on a bibliometric project on COVID-19, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so let's get to the crux of today's talk, right? Sorry, I'm a bit nervous because one of the things about what's really interesting about this whole pandemic and this whole new media, in terms of how we communicate with one another, it's like we are dealing with so many audiences who are voyeurs because we can't see their faces, right? We don't hear them, and pretty much they are just like blank screens. So it's kind of like intimidating. By the way, if you are tuning in, could you please just kindly chat with me, interact with us, interact with me, type your name, who are you, and where are you watching this from? Okay, so that would be great. At least I know I'm not talking to Leia alone, right, Leia? Okay, so let's start with this. What is a professional? I'd like to hear your thoughts, right? The audience's thoughts, and how does it differ from these terms, novice and amateur? What do you think? Maybe I'll just give you about 1 minute or so to think about it and quickly type something. Anyone has any idea what's a professional and how does it differ from a novice and an amateur? How about you, Leia? Talk to me. What do you think these terms refer to?
I would think it's to do with the level of skill that you have. So a professional would be really up there, whereas a novice and amateur is just beginning. We do have some comments coming in. I don't know if you can see them.
No, I can't see
From Dr.
anything.
Jimmy. Okay, so we've got comments from four people. So Dr. Jenny says,
I think
what is a
I think you
professional?
can highlight the comments, right, from YouTube.
Oh, can I?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Hey, Jeannie, long time no see. Okay, a professional is competent, like what you said as well, Leah. Like a person who is a professional is someone who can do stuff, whereas a novice is a beginner, and so on and so forth, right? Hi, Nazima. Thanks for joining in. Okay, I want you guys to also think about these terms, right? Photographer and dancer. Now, let's use the term professional photographer, professional dancer. Okay, let's think about that for a while. And also novice photographer, amateur photographer, and amateur dancer, novice dancer. Is there a difference between the two? So for most people, this is what we call concordances, right? And how words pretty much relate to other words. So if you have professional photographer, we tend to think of it as, oh, these people are paid to do this. They are good at what they do, and they are paid to do it. So you are paid to be a photographer. You're paid to be a dancer. If you're a professional photographer, professional dancer. But if you're a novice photographer or amateur photographer, people start to think, maybe you're just a hobbyist. You are someone who's not doing it for money, but you're doing it because you love the art. Now, how about these terms? Lawyer, radiographer, academic, professional lawyer, a novice lawyer, professional radiographer, an amateur radiographer, professional academic, novice academic. You see the difference there? So with these terms, we tend to associate them as, yeah, you're getting paid regardless if you are very skilled or you're not skilled at all, or you have very basic level of skills. You're a novice lawyer, right? You are just starting out. So we tend to associate words with, different meaning with different terms when it comes to the term professional, novice, and amateur. So how I'm actually using this term in this talk is that a professional is someone who is really, really good at what they do. So I'm not talking about whether or not you are making money out of it, but rather I'm talking about skill sets, right? You know how to do what you need to be doing in order to accomplish certain kinds of tasks. Just like, for example, what makes someone a professional streamer online? How do you use the web stream? There is a difference between a novice and a professional, and some people actually get paid to do that. So having said that, right, how can we become professionals if we are not professionals, and how can we exceed our expectations? So that is this is one question, right, that I started working on back in 2016, because one of my mentors, his name is Professor Srikant Sarangi. He's based in Aalborg in Denmark. So one of the things that fascinates me about the research he does is that he tends to travel all around the world, and he makes all of these really, really thought-provoking observations. And he would say something like, when I go to the restaurants, I notice that I can tell whether a waiter is professional or not by the way they serve wine. So when they pour wine into the glass, if it's little, what happens is they may get scoldings from the customers. But if they over pour too much, they also may get scoldings from their employers, right? And that's because wine is very expensive. Clients are paying to get at least what they paid for. So if they get more than what they paid for, it's great, but it's not good for the business. So he was making all these observations just by looking at how people, operate in the restaurants and how people react to one another in those kind of settings. And that's how I pretty much got interested in this kind of dialogues as well, and topics concerning professionalism and how we can accelerate our progress to becoming just that. So there are three components actually to becoming a professional. The first is setting the right mindset and attitude. That's the first. The second, upgrading your competence. And the third, having a solid support system. Okay, there are three components which I'm going to be expounding on in this particular talk today. Now, before I move on to the next one, I would strongly recommend you guys to watch this film, right? It's called Spider-Man Into the Spiderwoods. Now, the reason why I love this film is because it pretty much shows how these three components, the right mindsets and attitudes, upgrading your competence, and having a solid support system, how they all play together in order to make someone really good at what they do. So long story short, this story, right, is about Miles Morales, and he practically witnessed the death of the original Spider-Man, Peter Parker, right? The Kingpin killed that fella, and so suddenly Miles found himself in that position where he had to fill really big shoes. Because if he didn't do that, if he didn't take up that responsibility, the whole world will be destroyed. But what the Kingpin did before he killed Peter Parker was he activated a machine, right, which brought all the spider people into this dimension where Miles Morales was in. So all of these people helped Miles to become, the hero that he needed to be, and helped him to upgrade his competence, and also helped him to reframe his mindset, like how would an amateur think, and help him to transform into someone who is really a professional. So let's start with mindsets and attitude, right? There are two threats to your mindset and attitude. And these are the threats that prevents people from actually achieving professionalism. So these two types are external disruptions, and the second one is internal obstructions. So let's delve deeper into this. When I talk about external disruptions, I'm talking about the things that are beyond our control. So what are some of these things which are beyond our control? Example, COVID-19, right? It's a black swan. So if you don't know what a black swan is, what a black swan event is, it's pretty much a perceived impossibility that turns out to be real. So these are things that people never thought would happen. And when, it happens, then people are just like, oh, it's a big disruption to our lives. Social political instabilities. So you have riots, you have people who are really unhappy. Why? Because they're being retrenched. Some of us may also have friends or family members who are going through all of these motions right now during this pandemic. What else? Deaths, people dying. I mean, even without the pandemic, deaths are very disruptive because I remember when my father passed away like a couple of years back, it was so disruptive that I couldn't concentrate at work. I had to deal with all the matters to ensure that things were in order. Otherwise, the bank might come after us, and had to deal with the funeral, the insurance, and so on and so forth. It's so disruptive, right? If you've ever gone through that, you have my sympathies. What else? Deadlines. Sometimes these deadlines are things we cannot control because it's given to us, and we need to fulfill our moral obligations in ensuring that we do our jobs. And accidents. So accidents happen, right? Like there's a saying, shit happens, right? So if it happens, then what happens? Sometimes it's so disruptive. We cannot, it's like we stumble and then we have to really pick ourselves out and move on from there. So these are things that are somewhat very difficult to control. But what are the things we can control? These are our internal obstructions. And we need to identify them and we need to eliminate them. So internal obstructions are pretty much what this illustration here describes, right? It's a lot to do with self-sabotaging. So when we talk about internal obstructions, we are always referring to self-sabotaging tendencies. What are some examples of these? Fear of failures. Now, this is one of my personal topics. I mean, a topic that I find most passionate to talk about, because I think that many of us, or rather many of people that we know, they fear a lot of failures. But if you look at children, right, what's so amazing about them is that they don't fear failures. Like teenagers, they have this saying also, YOLO, right? You live only once, so you do whatever you want to do. And if you get into a freak accident, you die or whatever, it's okay because you only live once. But as you grow older, you start to realize that, hey, there are so many risks involved, and these risks can be so detrimental to our future, right? It may cause a lot of unwanted consequences. As a result, this can paralyze us from growing. Procrastination is another kind of internal obstruction because, procrastination has a lot to do with perfectionism. So if that's one element. If you're too much of a perfectionist, sometimes you look at certain things and you go, no, I can't do this, so I'll just put it aside. And on the flip side, you have people who are very much, they fear failures, and that's why they procrastinate. They're like, oh, I can't do this, and they put it aside. So they procrastinate working on those things that they need to be working on. What else? Being irresponsible. So you don't do something that you need to be doing, or you do something that you shouldn't be doing, and you blame on something else. Like one of the most common things that I know of many people saying is that I have no time. When I need to be doing something, but you just don't do it. Why? Because I have no time. And that is actually, in a sense, neglecting your moral obligation, your responsibility. What else? Poor stress management. If you don't know how to take care of yourself, if you're constantly stressed, it just shows that you are not adept at managing your levels of stress. So there are ways to go about with that. I married a counselor, and she pretty much taught me a lot on the ways on how to take care of yourself in terms of managing your stress. What else? Financial management. Now, this was something I was very, very bad at. But after I left my job from and that's when I started to realize, hey, everything I do had to do with money, right? So because if you don't take care of your expenses, you'll be struggling to put food on the table. And poor financial management is something that many people face. Like, in fact, there was a study that showed in Malaysia that there's so many people, I think there are more than half the population, they do not have safety nets. They don't have insurances, they don't have a buffer, right? Financial buffer to take care of themselves, especially in these times of difficulty. So all of this can be very problematic. And lastly, addiction to drama. I have so many stories to share, but I'm just going to share one. I got to know this story from a friend of a friend of a friend, right? And this person one day said, "I'm having difficulty with my family life, my relationship with my wife." And turns out this guy, he is addicted to sex. So he always goes to the brothels, and all that. He does all of these very, very what do you call that? I won't want to call it immoral, but yeah, immoral stuff, right? And the thing is, I was talking to my wife, and she said that one possible reason for people to be addicted to drama is that they need that excitement, they need that escape in order to break away from the mundanes of life, right? And yeah, if you're addicted to drama, and all of us to some degrees are, but it's a question of, do you let it control your life to the point that it causes so much self-sabotaging events to take place? So if you can identify all of this, then you can solve that. But most people actually are not aware, that they have these issues. So what can we do to find out that if we have all of these issues? The simple answer is have someone to point out your BS, and you get help. I'm sorry, I should be using very clean language here. I forgot this is a formal event. I'm not sure if Problem is going to get annoyed with me, but never mind. So what you need to be doing is to ask for honest but compassionate feedback. Okay, from your friends, from people who really care about you, and ask them, what's wrong with me? Okay, get this kind of quality feedback from them. And the truth is gonna hurt, right? Like this, right? Like Gordon Ramsay, for example, is one guy who is able to just throw the feedback at you, and it hurts, right? It can really hurt badly, but it's that kind of thing that will wake you up if you choose to actually see whether those kind of feedbacks hold valid claims. So if you have someone like Gordon Ramsay, but of course ask, can you please be compassionate with your feedback? Don't make me feel like crap. Yeah, then that would be great. Okay, so we've covered the first part, right? We talked about what you can do to address some of these issues concerning your mindset and your attitude. So the long story short, talk to people, especially talk to people who really want to help you grow, and ask them what you need to be improving yourself on. Let's move to the second component, right? The second out of the third, 2 out of 3. How to develop your competence. Everyone knows who this is, right? You all know who this is? Leia, who is this person? You should know, otherwise you should be completely ashamed of yourself.
Marie Curie.
Oops, sorry, my speaker just died on its own. Yeah, I can.
Oh, no. Can you hear me? What?
Right. And what's so special about Marie Curie?
She discovered, I can't remember,
yeah,
so I
and
still know.
pretty much she started the whole field of medical
Yep.
physics, right? So Marie Curie was a
Yes.
2-time Nobel Prize award winner. She got, I think, 1903 in physics. No, sorry, chemistry. No, sorry, physics. It was physics. And in 1911, she got another Nobel Prize award in the area of chemistry. So what makes her so competent at what she does? I mean, look at us, right? We are most of us have PhDs, and we are aspiring to become like scholars. But back then, I think Marie Curie didn't have a lot of that kind of support. It was a very male-dominated setting in academia. It was hard for women to actually thrive and to grow. But what made her so competent at what she did? I would say she had 3 things. And she was able to develop these 3 areas in order to become a really competent individual. First is expertise. So I call this the 3 E's, yeah? The 3 E's. Expertise. Second one is efficiency. She was very efficient at what she did. Otherwise, how will you win 2 Nobel Prize awards, right? And number 3, excellence. She set the bar for herself. So let's delve deeper into these 3 areas. I'd like to start off with talking about this guy here. You can see him building a guitar. By the way, that's my guitar he was building. And this guy, his name is Jeffrey Yoong. He's a master luthier guitarist. Guitar maker. And he builds guitars for a living, right? And he's someone I always associate with as someone who is an expert at what he does. He's been building guitars for, I think, close to 40, 50 years now. And every guitar he builds, which only takes him about 2 weeks, can fetch a price up to 15,000 US dollars. It only takes him 2 weeks. And the thing is, he is well known in the luthier making world. In fact, he is considered to be one of the grandmasters of guitar making. So, I had the opportunity to study under him how he actually built his guitar. And that is why I thought, wow, this guy is really amazing. So I asked him, how do you learn how to build a guitar? And this is what he said to me. Back then in Malaysia, like many decades ago, there weren't any other luthiers around. So what he did was he was so fascinated with the art of making string instruments, right? He would watch many of the VCR players and all that, right? He just watched the videos and then he tries to immerse himself in it. And he would go to the carpenter shops to see how the carpenters actually use wood, how they mold, they shape wood. And it's quite fascinating, right? And he'll say he will go to the car mechanic workshop. He'll just sit down there. He'll talk to the owners and the workers and ask them, oh, how do you use that? How do you do that? Can I try as well? So he would get his hands dirty in that way. And that's how he developed his competence to becoming a pioneer, in guitar making in Malaysia. So when we talk about expertise, we are always talking about mastery of knowledge and technical skill sets. What must you do in order to acquire these areas, right? You have the knowledge and the technical know-how. Sometimes, yes, there's a lot of overlap, but many a times these are kept very separate, especially in academia, unfortunately. So many academics like to study a phenomenon from their ivory towers, right? Please don't skin me alive here for saying that. So in a way it's true, right? Many academics do not really go down to the field to get their hands dirty. They rather I'm gonna study this phenomena, I'm gonna try this experiment, and I'm gonna publish my papers. So that's pretty much the main jobs of an academic scholar, right? So what else? You got to sharpen, in order to develop mastery in these areas, your knowledge and technical know-hows, you need to sharpen your intuition. So what intuition here refers to is your gut feelings, right? When you see something, you know how to make sense of it. It's like, I know what I can do with this. So that's like intuition. You're using your sense perceptions, connecting the dots, seeing patterns, and you come to certain kinds of actionable sort of output from there. In order to develop mastery of all of this, you can do so through formal and informal, structured and unstructured lessons. When you mix all of this together, instead of just relying everything on the lecturer, for example, in schools, we should encourage our students to go out to the field, go and mix around with other entrepreneurs, learn from them how things are done, bring back, take all of those interdisciplinary knowledge and know-how, join them together, mold and create something new from there. So that's how you can actually advance your mastery of skill sets and knowledge. And of course, in order to have all of this, you got to practice. Practice, practice, practice. And you practice through trial and error over time. And that's how you will end up being a master at what you do. Okay, so that's expertise, right? The other component, efficiency. Leah, you know who this person is, right?
Yes.
Who is she? I'm sorry, you're
um,
the only person I'm interacting here because I don't see other comments coming up, so I'm not sure.
there are actually, but a lot of them are support or from people saying where they're from. If you want me to publish them,
Can lah, can. But who's this person,
okay.
Leia? Who's this person?
Prof Adiva.
Right. So Prof. Adiba is the dean of the Faculty of Medicine in the University of Malaya, and the thing about this woman is that I'm like, whew, mind blown, right? Because she does so many things. She's publishing, she's supervising her students, she's doing a lot of activism work. She's, by the way, if you're not in the know, her area of specialization is actually in public health policy concerning HIV and AIDS research and stuff like that. And she does a lot of activism. She engages with the media a lot, and she's managing a faculty. There's so many things she's doing, and it's crazy how she does it, right? But the reason why she's able to do all of that is because she is doing more with less. And this is what we call ephemeralization. Okay, it's a very long word. It's a word that was I won't say introduced, but it was popularized by this visionary scholar. His name is Buckminster Fuller, and he talks a lot about how can you do more with less, to the point that you don't even need to exert so much energy to get the same kinds of result. And we see this a lot in technology. For example, everyone remembers the phone, right? You know how phones were created to begin with? It was like using the cup and the string, and then it became electromagnetic waves, and then it advanced to what do you call that? Landlines, and then now we have like satellites. Then it became like now we are using Wi-Fi. Our smartphones today went through a lot, right? In terms of evolution, in terms of process designs and trial and error, right? To become what it is today. But if you look at our smartphones, it is able to do so much more for so little. All you need to do is just buy one phone instead of having to buy a radio, a camera, and so on and so forth, right? In order to do the things that a smartphone can do. So that is ephemeralization. How do we bring all of this into our own professional practice? So this is where we talk about systems creation. How do we create systems in order to ensure that we are able to do more with less? So Prof. Adiba is amazing when it comes to creating systems. She has a team to handle certain things. She would delegate tasks. She doesn't micromanage like many managers that I know of, right? She doesn't micromanage. She picks the best, asks them to handle certain things, and these individuals will report directly to her. So that's systems creation. Another thing you can do is what kind of systems you need to be creating? So one way to go about identifying these systems is to run a SWOT analysis. You guys know what a SWOT analysis is, right? It's basically an analysis of strength, weaknesses, opportunities, as well as threats. So you run all of these analysis to monitor accountability, progress, set trajectories, objectives, and see whether or not we are able to achieve all of them. So that's a SWOT analysis. And if you find something is not working very well, what do? You change, you tweak it a little bit, or you try to understand through research, the whole research process, what is going wrong. So from there, try to find new methods to improve the system, improve and improve and improve. Okay, another way you can accelerate your efficiency is to survey how others are doing. Like this is happening a lot in amongst the entrepreneurship circle. I know because I'm currently in it, right? So one of the things we need to do in order to survive is to survey what other people, what our competitors are doing, survey other kinds of disciplines, what they are doing, and see how we can actually create. Now, this is a business term, right? Blue oceans as opposed to red ocean. So red ocean is a metaphor for, for sharks. When there are too many people when too many sharks in the pool, what happens? It becomes very bloody. People will reduce their prices, right? And it's like, oh, I'm offering more for less, and then please buy my product and services. So it comes to the point that it's like everyone's just fighting over a small pie. But a blue ocean is where you realize that there's a bigger pool, not many other sharks in it, and you create new opportunities for yourself in it. So survey what other people are doing, incorporate those methods, especially the ones who are able to create blue oceans for themselves. So you study all of these successful people, successful group, emulate their methods, and see whether or not it helps you to become more efficient. Okay, is everyone okay with me right now? I can't see your faces because, in this new age of pandemic, everyone's a voyeur. Okay. Now, let me just move on to the next one. The third component of the 3 E's, right? Excellence. Do you know who this is? Leah, I have to ask you again. Or if the rest of you in our audience, if you are watching this, throw your comments and Leah should be able to highlight them up. Who do you think this is, Leah?
Guys, help me out. I'm joking. It's Michael Phelps and
That's
Joseph.
right. So that's Michael
Joseph
Phelps and Joseph Schooling. Look at how scrawny Joseph Schooling was back then, the left picture. And then what happened, right? If you don't know this story, so Joseph Schooling always looked up to Michael Phelps as being like, wow, the icon, the hero. But you know what happened? A few years ago, right? Joseph Schooling from Singapore actually broke Michael Phelps' record.
Yep.
And that's what we call setting the bar of excellence. You see this guy as your hero. This guy has set the benchmark, right? And you are trying to exceed that. Match and exceed. So that's what excellence is all about. Matching and exceeding. So set the standards for yourself. If you want to be a professional, look at who are the ones in the field who are the professionals, and then aim to exceed them. Of course, sometimes it'll be like crazy, like Prof. Ng, right? He's got publications in the thousands, right? But is it possible to exceed? Okay, maybe you can't actually exceed his because he's like a super intellectual genius, right? So, but what can you do about it? So, I'll talk about that afterwards. You got to find ways to become a disruptor. So we always talk like earlier when I talked about the threats, right? The external threats. There are a lot of things that can go wrong. So many external disruptors like COVID-19. But did you know that despite all of these disruptions, there are people who are standing to benefit so much from this pandemic, especially in the health sector, in the digital sector, and so on. The thing is, yes, while we are subject to so many of these external disruptions, we always need to think about this. How can we be a disruptor in the field that we're in? How can we innovate? So when we talk about disrupting, it's always about innovating. So you've identified a problem. In fact, there was a group of what do you call that? Entrepreneurs I joined, and this is one of the things they always espouse. They say that if you can if you can spot a problem out there, all right, and you see no one else is doing it, it is your job to solve that problem. Now, when you start solving that problem, you will actually become a disruptor. Why? Because you are providing that kind of solution. And then when people see what you're doing, you are pretty much ahead of the pack. So again, this is like, goes back to the point I was trying to make as well, concerning the blue ocean. You create new opportunities for yourself. Like right now, everyone's just, they are like, oh, panicking, don't know what to do. So they just follow the crowd. That's why right now, these days, when you go into Facebook, you go into YouTube, you'll find a lot of people saying, hey, listen to me, I'm the great guru. I know how to teach you how to make money. You can be rich, stuff like that. And everyone's trying to follow that because they think that is the only way to survive. And when that happens, what happens? You create red oceans. There's too many sharks. Everyone's fighting for the limited pie when actually it doesn't need to be that way. So to be excellent, think about the areas where you can truly excel in. Be it a disruptor in those areas. Okay, it's already 8:40. I'm just gonna make haste a little bit because, wait, I only have 4 more slides to go. So focus also on quality rather than quantity. And I know, right? Okay, this talk is supposed to be for academics, right? Just bear in mind, when you get into the academic world, there is one thing that most academics, they will tell you this, especially the managers, university managers, you need to publish. Publish or perish. And they only care about one thing, numbers. They want to always, when I was deputy dean, right? Insider story, don't tell anyone else, although it's on YouTube live. But anyway, when I was deputy dean, I had to go for all of these meetings, right, with the top management. And the one question they always ask when they go from faculty to faculty, all the deans, they will always ask, okay, what's your number? Did you meet your targets and stuff like that? There were never questions like, oh, how's your staff doing? What kind of projects, exciting projects are you working on? These are things that you really can't count. Because, how do you count passion, for example? If these are the things that are making people feel alive, actually, if you think about it, the end product is actually quantity. Because if you love what you're doing, there's so much meaning in what you do, it can produce an abundance of many things, just not publication. Unfortunately, today's academic world is just moving into that direction of publication. Numbers. We don't care about anything else. Okay, I have 4 more minutes, right? But let me just try and make haste here. It's important for you guys, okay, this is the third component, to build your support networks, all right? Support networks. So I like to start with this, right? If you are trying to get from point A to point Z, and, yes, you are doing it on your own, you're walking, it will take you a very long time. It may take you a very long time to cover that distance. But what is the one way you can actually accelerate your progress? It is by harnessing, leveraging. The keyword I'm trying to introduce here is, in this point, is leverage. And whom can you leverage on to accelerate your progress? So I came up with this model. It's called the CARE model. So your support networks are meant to provide you with care, C-A-R-E. And what does care stand for? Companionship, number one. Because it can be a very, 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 very lonely journey, especially if you are moving towards creating a niche for yourself. You may be the only person there, and you need people to cheer you on. Cheerleaders, you need your cheerleaders. You need people to celebrate your small wins. You need someone to tell you, hey, it's okay when you fail. Administrative support. Okay, especially if you're an academic, one day you're planning on going to that world, you're going to be dealing with a lot of paperwork, a lot of bureaucracies, a lot of many layers of nonsense, right? You have to deal with. So you have to deal with all of that. You need support. It can get very difficult, even with your taxes, right? If you're an entrepreneur, someone to help you with your taxes and all that. Administrative support. Resource support refers to what? Things like money. Who can provide you with money? Who can provide you with data? What else? Equipment, and so on and so forth. So if you have someone who can provide you with that resource support, you will lessen your burden and you can accelerate your progress faster. And finally, expertise support. Who are the ones who can provide you with feedback? And that is why it's very important to have mentors. And that's why I'm really happy also that this group Prof. Ng created for you guys is a great space for you to get a lot of expertise support from your community. And I'd just like to throw a quick tribute to a couple of, people in my life. I'm just talking about the CARE model here. Like my wife and my cats, actually, they are like the greatest cheerleaders in my world. Who else? My family members, they are great people who are always there to support me. Friends, these are people who, I can rely on if things were to go downhill, and they are always there to cheer me on and celebrate my wins. And of course, I like to talk about some of the mentors who really shaped the person I am today. And these are people who really, truly helped me grow and to the person I am today. So that's Professor Tonya Stebbins. She was a great, very disciplined supervisor, one of the best supervisors I've ever had. Professor Novi, she's now with the University of Sydney. Professor Randy Lapal, this guy is now with NUS. He was bought over by the University in Singapore. Professor Srikant Sarangi, this guy is from Denmark. I've learned so much from this guy. It's just amazing to learn from him. Of course, our beloved Professor Ng, right? Our top 50 medical physics scholar in the world. Professor Yvonne Lim, who is also, the reason why I came up with the CARE model was actually because of her. And of course, I would like to also acknowledge these individuals. This is Merrick Fu. He is one of my entrepreneur mentors. Basically, this guy, he was a university dropout, but he's like basically running $1 million businesses, and he's like helping many mentees to create their niche in the business world. This is Dr. James Fu. This is also one of my mentors, and Candy, who is also a great mentor in. And as you can see, right, the pictures are pretty much similar. They three work together to mentor people like myself. So anyway, long story short, to sum up everything, this is how you go about becoming a professional. 3 things you need to focus on: setting the right mindset and attitude, having care support, and upgrading your competence. Okay, Prof. Ng told me to also open up for Q&A, right? So yes, feel free. If you have any questions to throw, I'll love to address them. And okay, this is just to wrap it up lah. If you need to contact me, you can reach me here, delphi@beadapt.com. You can follow me on Facebook, Dave Yoong Ideas. You can also add me on LinkedIn, although I'm not very active there, David Yoong. And you can, if you need help with thesis writing, do check out my website here. Yeah, it's kind of long. Or you can just type excellentresearchbeadapt.com. And finally, a little bit of promotion here. If you need help with your research, if you want to accelerate your thesis, do check out my book. You can get it on Google Play as well as Amazon, 3 years for a PhD. Okay, so over back to you, Leah.
Thank you, Dr. David. Thank you so much. That was really, really helpful actually. Because like I wish I heard your talk in the start of my 20s. It was really yes. But before I head on to questions, everyone watching, if you have any questions, please place it on the comments and I'll flash them up. Whilst that's happening, I will just show you everyone who's joined. We've got Miss Nazima from UITM. We've got Aiha from he works in IKM. We've also got Iobosa from Nigeria all the way. We've got Nurse Sakina from USM. We've got Aisha from University of Indonesia. We've got Layla, also from Indonesia. And oh wait. Okay, I do have some questions here. Ms. Catherine has asked, how do you find the difference between spotting experiences that deepen your mastery and intuition instead of diluting your attention in a bid to absorb more than you can?
I think it's not so much about it's again about your purpose, right? Why do you want to do something? So if that is a skill that you want to acquire to help you to advance from point A to point Z, so maybe that's what you need to be looking at. But let me just break down the question here. It's a bit long. Okay, how do you find the difference between spotting experiences that deepen your mastery and intuition instead of diluting your intention in a bid to absorb more? I think it's not about learning you have to learn purposefully, right? I have one of my clients, she tries to take in too much information because she's doing her PhD right now, and she's lost a lot. But I see her over time, she's able to filter out what are the things that just don't help with her research purpose. And that's how she's able to move forward with her research. So likewise, I think, right, it's about not being like the child who's always following the butterfly. Let's say you need to go traverse on a certain path and you find like butterflies flying all around, and you shouldn't be too much astray from that path and follow that butterfly. I hope it makes sense, right? We just need to be focused in what we want to learn and how do we want to become a master at what we do. Otherwise, we'll be just like what jack of all trades and master of none. I hope I've answered your question, Catherine.
We do have another question from Miss Lim. I think you might recognize her.
Yes, I recognize her. Can you give an example of how blue ocean strategies has worked in academia? For example, like Marie Curie, for example, right? She realized, hey, this is something very new that I can work on, and she created pretty much a discipline for herself. So, okay, one way to think about creating blue ocean strategies, this is another framework I came up with. It's called the retail framework. So it spells as RETAIL. And what retail means is that stands for reading. So read as much as you can. Study, survey what other people are doing, and see what are the gaps that are not covered yet, that are not touched. E stands for experiences. Draw from your own personal experiences and see, for example, quick story. There was a paper which I wrote many years ago. It was on lottery gaming and gambling, right? And the reason why I pursued that research was because one day I was reading the newspapers and I was like, I came across this article where it talked about this woman, housewife, who bought a lottery ticket, 4-digit number, and she became an instant millionaire. An ordinary woman who became an instant millionaire. And that got me thinking, wow, it's so easy to become rich, right? So I was like putting one foot out of my office and telling myself, yes, if I become a millionaire, I don't have to work in the university anymore. So, but anyway, what happened was I stopped myself and I asked, wait a minute, if it's so easy to become a millionaire from just buying lottery tickets, then we would have millionaires all around us, right? Then I consulted one of my applied statistician friends and I asked her, can you do me a quick calculation with your magic abilities, right? And tell me, what is the probability of winning that exact lottery ticket? So I waited for one day and she gave me a very detailed analysis showing that to win that exact same lottery ticket, you've got to buy 16.667 million lottery tickets in order to stand 100% chance. So if you want to stand a 50% chance, you got to buy 8 million lottery tickets. Each lottery ticket costs about 2 ringgit. So that's, from that experience of having been deceived, despite me being a linguist, I was like, oh my God, I have a topic to actually write on here. So that was what I did. So that's how you create a blue ocean for yourself as well. So RET, test your ideas. If your ideas are too ambitious and it's not practical to carry out, then you're going to be struggling, right? So that's that. RETAA, ask questions. Ask as many questions as you can so that you're able to find out the dimensions of the phenomena you're trying to understand. Like, you can always start with, like the philosophers of the past, they ask, what's the meaning of life? Such a generic question that led to a whole field of like philosophy being developed, right? RETAI, immersing yourself in data. So you swim in data and that's how you are able to spot. These are the gaps. This is how I can create a niche for myself. L, leverage. Ask the experts in the field, hey, what do you think needs attention? What's your most profound thoughts? And when you get that kind of input from as many experts as you can as possible, you become someone who can see a lot of things like these are the areas I need to work on. So that's how these are just some ways to go about creating blue oceans. I hope I've answered your question, S. Slim. Anyone else? Any questions?
Thank you. Yes, Miss Aisha has a question. How to approach and ask our idol to become our mentor?
Okay, I have a very, very, okay, this is very serious, okay? You got to be very careful when you talk about approaching icons and idols because these people, there's actually a book that was published. I found it so fascinating. It was written by what's his name, Bruno something. Basically, it's talking about narcissism, narcissistic tendencies amongst scientific icons. These individuals may be, yeah, they are like publishing great pieces of research and stuff like that, but be warned, if you actually do study under them, you may be jaded after a while, because you will find that they may be very narrow-minded. They may be people who are like very arrogant, and they will like, no, no, they were very dismissive and stuff like this. It's a book, do check it out. Keywords, Bruno something. And the book title is Science or Scientific and Narcissism. These are some of the keywords. Check that out, because it's a warning to scholars to be careful when you are trying to find a supervisor who's an icon.
Thanks. I do actually have a question on this. How do you know, especially when you're going through, like when you're creating a blue ocean, how do you know when it's a dead end? Like, how do you, not to sound pessimistic, but how do you know if there's an opportunity there, or it like, as much as optimism can carry you, can't carry you? Like, where do you know that limit, of
That's a
when
great
to stop?
question. That's a very good question. And the answer is doing your market survey. You always need to try. And when you test the market, and when I say market, I'm referring to practically putting your ideas out there in the world, getting feedback. What do people see? If people are starting to copy your ideas, then hey, it's a great idea, it's a great opportunity, then get started on it. That's how you become the forefront of what you do. Market survey.
Yeah, I always wondered that. Like, when do you stop with that? Like, how do people know when it's
But the
important
problem is,
really to
most
them?
people tend to be very afraid to do that, because you need to be very vulnerable. When you put your work out there,
Yeah.
you have sometimes a million what's his name again? Gordon Ramsay's, right? They say, oh, it's stupid, it's idiotic, and then you feel, oh God, it's terrible, the feeling, and then you shrink inside, and it's like, I don't want to see the world for the next 5 years, right? It's that kind of feeling, but that's what you need to do if you really want to be truly creating blue oceans for yourself. Otherwise, you just be like anyone else, just follow what the pack is doing, and you don't become somebody. And when you don't become somebody, it's hard for you to become a professional.
Yeah, that's very true, because I think it's easier to go into the red ocean than the blue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions? A couple of people have said hello. Mr. Fiddler from Indonesia.
All the
And
Latin Americans, people must be sleeping.
I'm not so sure. I think anyone from Latin America, say hey. I'm not so sure, because I think it's like just about sunrise for them at the moment, I think.
Yeah, very ungodly hour. I mean, I can completely relate, because like when I was a student, or I tend to sleep and wake up like very late in the morning.
Yes. Um, anyone with any questions so far? Let me see if I've missed anything. Um, oh, I have. Oh, okay. Miss Aisha has a following question to correct. It's like, I'm sorry, I mean the idol is someone great at research and study who is also a lecturer in university.
Okay, so let's just say, I'm sorry, I don't think I answered that question very well. So, but the first thing is, be careful. You don't want to be studying under someone who's making you feel terrible all the time, right? But let's just say this person is really a wonderful, truly wonderful person to work with, like Prof. Ng. So let's say you want to work with this icon. What you can do is just approach. If they are like normal human beings, they're really nice people. Just say, hey, I've read your works. I think I can learn so much from you. Can I study under you? That's it. That's all you need to do. Start a conversation, a friendly conversation with them.
Yeah, it's sometimes I think we tend to put more barriers, especially when
Yeah,
it comes to our idol,
exactly. Yeah.
and they're just as human as all of us. But yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Miss Aisha, for your question. Mayu says hi. She's one of the mentees as well. She's from Taiwan, but she's currently doing her PhD in Houston.
Excellent. Nice
Um,
to meet you.
I think, does anyone else have any more questions? Please kindly do write. Um, we'll give it one more minute, but I feel like no one's got questions for now.
Everyone's a genius. Excellent.
I think everyone's a little shy. But what was your like what was the most fun thing that you had being the deputy dean, working with students? Like what was the most fun or passionate?
I think seeing your students just grow, they come in like being noobs, like don't know anything, like in Malaysia we always say blur like sotong, right? Means like you
Yeah.
like don't know anything, and seeing them progress through time to becoming someone who is a knowledge maker, someone who's confident with themselves. I think that's one of the best things being an academic. And sometimes, of course, there are other moments like being deputy dean. I think one of the best things was actually being invited to all these embassy parties and all that. That was fun. So I mean, but I don't
Wow.
miss it because it's not really my core values to socialize with all these people. But I mean, the fun lasted while it lasted. These
Wow.
these were the best moments.
That's really cool actually.
But I
Oh,
think the thing is also, I think if it's possible, I like to encourage as many people, the audience tuning in today, to try to become entrepreneurs yourself. You will find that the world is very different. It's like pretty much having a baby shark behind you. If you don't move fast enough, it will nip you in the butt, and you go, oh, I need to be doing this, I need to be doing that. Because entrepreneurship is one of those things that can really make you feel alive. Because your
yeah.
safety net is not there. And actually, that was one of the things after I left the university. I had to get rid of that mindset that I don't have a stable income anymore. I had to give up my privileges as deputy dean, but I think it was so worth it because I am so much happier these days. And yeah, give it a go.
Yeah, that was a question I was going to ask. Like, what's the difference between academia and entrepreneurship? But thanks. We do have one question from Aika. Uh, he, what's your advice on embarking oneself in the academic world despite the red ocean limitation
Um,
equals limited vacancy?
yeah, that's the thing, right? It's a red ocean, especially if you are a student. You finish your PhD and you're trying to find a job, right, in the university. So most of the times, most PhD students would try to do their postdocs,
Mm,
but the thing is, it's not a stable job. you
mm,
are you are bound by contracts, right? And if you don't meet those obligations, what happens? There's a likelihood you will not be uh, renewed, and you will pretty much be trapped. And I have so many friends who are in that kind of predicament right now, especially these times, because suddenly the funds dried up for so many kinds of research projects. Like some of my friends, one of them in Australia right now, she doesn't have a job because her postdoc has ended and she can't renew it anymore. So the thing is, if you don't have this kind, and it's a very competitive area, right? Everyone is fighting for that two vacancy or one vacancy post.
yep.
So the next thing to do is just step out of the box and create your own blue ocean. Think about it. Okay, why do people want to get postdoc jobs? Because they want to get into university. Why do they want to get into university? Because they see it as you get that acknowledgement that I'm the authority in the field. I have a doctor. It's like for glamour's sake, right? In some ways, and also you have a steady income, right? So a lot of people have that mindset, but the thing is, it is super super competitive. And if you're an academic, the rejection rates when you try to submit papers for all of these journals, they will just slash you like crazy, right? And it's so disheartening sometimes. What can you do? Look at your community. Look at your immediate community. What help do they need? Ask yourself that. And then ask, what can I do to help them? Can I add value into their lives? Because if you can answer that question and you can execute a plan and you carry out those actions, all of those actions would eventually convert to money. I mean, that's the reality, right? Most of us, when we come from, I mean, we are all trained from young to think about the world in terms of scarcity. There's not enough for people around. And that's what like jobs like, academic jobs are like, scarcity. It's just so few positions and when so many people, that are sharks trying to fight for that limited crumbs on the plate. So what can you do? Think about your community. What do they need help in? And what can you do to help them? When you do that and you keep doing that, not just for that community, you expand it out onwards. Like, a virus in a sense, but a great virus. So you help all of these communities. People will start to take notice of you. Then from there, people will want to help you. They want to support you. They want to fund you. And that's how you create your economic engine. Now, the thing is, right, you can do so much more outside of academia. And that's why I believe. And that's why I left academia, because I see that there's so many things I can be doing, and there are so many possibilities for me to make a living outside. In fact, I know I can be richer, making more money actually outside of academia. I hope I answered your question.
We do have a question from Miss, not question, more of a statement from Miss Nazima. She said,
yes, an essay in science and narcissism. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, Nazima. That's the book. I would strongly encourage all of you, if you're looking for an academic supervisor or someone to work with, please do check out this book. It's a great book that talks about the dangers of working with an icon, an academic icon, because you may be in a world of surprise and shock, actually.
Is this the book from Google?
You can actually download it. The book is available online for free, actually. Check out on ResearchGate. I think the author just, posted it up for everyone to download.
Okay. So far, there's no more questions. So I guess we can wrap it up. But thank you so much, Dr. David, once again.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was very, very, very insightful. And thank you all for tuning in. We're so happy to have you, and we hope that we can see you again perhaps sometime next year. Thank you, and have a great evening, everyone. Bye.
See you all. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in.